I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Exactly, we want government to protect citizens from harm, and that is for them to acknowledge that the harm exists. So in our world, we reject the idea of erasing the memory of people about the crime committed by a perpetrator, in where the perpetrator want to erase their track record. So in this motion, the urgency would be the fact that we don't want the crime record to be gone. Why? Because we want people to be more aware, and also it's rights for these people, for the society. In our side, perpetrators will still have to get these crime charges and make up for it, so they still have to finish sentences. But society will have to know about it. Like society will, like their memory won't be erased. So moving on straightly to my rebuttals before I get into my argument. The first one is to counter the point that proposition had stated, which is that sometimes it's not always fully on the harm on perpetrators, but it could be exaggerated by the victims, or like it can be like this one victim is not like a person directly impacted, but they still feel it. But the thing is, no, it's not always the case. Just because the other feel something and have the necessity to blame a perpetrator, that exactly justifies that the perpetrator has done something. Like it still meant harm, and it's still human nature to do so. And like the sake of any incident that occurs is sizable or matters for each individual. We cannot define it as something that is a second hand, so we just need to erase their memory and so on. Like we don't have the heights to reduce or like dismiss it. But moving on to the second rebuttal, which is a more weighted rebuttal, it's the fact that proposition had stated that the victims don't have to feel emotionally scared anymore, since they have forgotten what the perpetrators did exactly to them directly. But the thing is, no, how is proposition so sure that like just because you erase their memory, they don't feel the impact of the actual crime? Like remember, we're talking about an actual crime that harmed the society. Like they fail to overlook the fact that we're talking about for instance, we take the example that was given by proposition, which is like the worker in the company like kept on talking about the corrupt officials and complaining about it. The thing is, even if they were to forget about the corrupt official actions, like it does not decrease the impact of the crime, right? It just erases your memory and make you stop complaining, but it does not erase the actual impact of it. So if we want to play in an emotional way, like what proposition said, let's say we play it that way, that's, you could still take it in where emotional harm doesn't only come from that person did the harm, but the fact that the government was corrupt, then it influenced their daily life. Like you couldn't get access to like things you should have gotten, or like the roads where you have to go to work is not fixed because your corrupt government. They will still feel it. They will still feel like they're emotionally drained every time they go to work because they have to go through those roads, right? So even if they don't like initially get it, they'll still feel shallow. They still feel like there's no longer anyone to blame, but they still lost something, right? They still have that feeling where they lost something. So the thing is, it's even worse on proposition side of the house, because they don't exactly know the reason of it, so it's just like shallow for them. But one other thing that's quite noticeable from proposition speed is that they also mention rape, which is quite bold. Why? Because rape is like also in physical terms. Like the victim of rape may not be able to forget the perpetrators directly, right? Because it's a traumatizing thing. But the thing is, rape also has a lot of physical effects. So in the physical one, right, they will still know it. They will still get like, they sometimes still feel the pain of it, and like there's no justification of it. There's no justification of what they're feeling, right? So at the end of the day, this will cause people to take it as something as like fate, which is bad, because it will cause like people to be able to normalize it, and we don't want it to happen. So straightly moving on to my first argument, that the right to be forgotten is not equal to the right of privacy. So people have the right to know like your track record, especially if you're a perpetrator. So privacy is something that should be protected, and we acknowledge that because it's within the scope of personal info, like your ID or like your number and so on and so forth. They are private matters. That is alright to be confidential, and it should be confidential. But when it's about the heights to be forgotten, in this case, perpetrators' case being erased from society memory, that one is too far because it has affected other people and not just yourself. For instance, someone committed a public scandal or like they stole money from a bank and so on and so forth. Like the fact there are traces of it physically or digitally, like people know it and then people talk about it online, indicates that that event already involve other people, and it matters. Like it matters to you as a person, it matters to the surroundings, the society. Hence why there shouldn't be a right for these perpetrators to have memory of society removed, because things that have reported are something that already affect the public, so it's not personal, right? Let's say it happened, if we were to say that this happened a long time ago, but the thing is, it's not an issue. Like time is not an issue here. The truth that what have been done have been done, right? And it couldn't be undone. So once it's already a public conversation between people, that means it cannot be ignored. Like it's not something you can brush off easily, especially if like you did something bad financially, and then it's not something you can brush because like when you want to work, like you have to show your record and so on and so forth, and they will also take that into weighing or like considering. And moving on to my second argument, which is a trade-off. My trade-off is also to respond to the third argument made by proposition, which is about how it helped criminals in like helping them thrive and so on and like move on with their life. But it's for the fact that people unfolding your track record as perpetrators. But the thing is, no, just because your past history is there publicly, like it's public, does not always mean that everybody will care. I'm sorry, but does not mean that everybody will care, and because they don't always have the necessity to do so. So they usually just search or get into further detail if you seem suspicious, if they think you're suspicious. So like as long as you've proven that you're doing fine and you have finished your rehabilitation, people will most likely treat you fine as a regular person. But even if people want to track your records, you should not be worrying about it, because firstly, nothing can be undone, right? And what matters the most is the present evidence on how you've changed. For example, you committed a fraud, show that you finished your sentence and so on and so forth. So if you have genuinely changed, there will always be people that will be there for you, proud to oppose.